for you. Any outbursts, anything that would be disruptive to the debate and disrespectful to everybody here and everybody online will not be tolerated. So we ask you to exhibit the utmost in morality. That is what we are here to debate. So please keep that in mind. And on that note, on this day in the University of Calgary, today is the 25th of May 2016. We are at the University of Calgary to witness a debate between Pastor Artur Pawlowski to my immediate left and Damien Marie AtHope to my far left. Mr. AtHope is from Los Angeles, California. He's currently residing in Seattle. He describes himself as an atheist, an anti-theist, an anti-religionist, a humanist, a writer. He's releasing a book shortly, an artist. He has a lot of art on his website. A poet. I believe there's some poetry on his website as well. A philosopher and an activist. He also is awarded with a Bachelor of Arts in Psychology. So with that note, we welcome Mr. AtHope. He will be debating Pastor Artur Pawlowski. He's the pastor in Street Church here in Calgary and internationally. He's the pastor for March for Jesus, Calgary and internationally. He's a former chaplain to the Salvation Army. He's a current chaplain to the Christian Friends of Magen David Adom in Israel, which is under the Red Cross banner. And he's a winner of the Freedom of Speech Award here in Canada. Please welcome Pastor Artur. So what we'll do to start this off is each participant will have 20 minutes of opening statements to make. We will then have a rebuttal time for the two, and then we'll have a 20-minute question and answer time between the two, at which point none of that is the audience welcome to join in at any time. But at the very end, there will be an audience question and answer for yourselves. Please respect the people here and the rules that they've agreed to abide by. Thank you. First up, we have Mr. Damien Marie AtHope.
Hello, everyone. I appreciate you coming, and I want to say that I thank you for being a good audience ahead of time, hoping that you will also feel the generosity of communication between intellectuals. And you also will understand the passion is a good thing, and I respect that. And I respect you to utilize passion with an ethical heart. And thus, you should try to, if you feel the need at any time when there's a chance for you to question, to just remember that. And I will try to do the same in how I interact with you. I believe that we all should be in the search for truth. And this is actually something that is really deep to my heart. I really want to know as many true things as possible. And I'm also the kind of thinker that as soon as I am presented with enough evidence to warrant a re-evaluation of a previous belief, I will do so. If I am given enough warrant to even bring more inquiry to where maybe I can actually reposition my belief, I will do so. And I believe that this is actually an accuracy issue of a person with character. And that is the person that I want to be. I want to be a person of character, and I am a person trying to live a value-driven life. So I will tell you, my name is Damien Marie AtHope, and I am an axiological atheist, which can be understood as a value science atheist, or it can be understood as a value theory atheist. For some who may not understand that, it is basically ethically reasoned and moral argument-driven atheism. This is a very strong form of atheism that basically says that the idea of God is actually harmful because it positions itself as a juxtaposition to humanity. And thus it is immediately anti-theist. And for those who don't know, that means it is anti the concept of God as a harmful thing. And if there is a real being that is God, that I can be shown, the only thing that would happen is that I would then be an opposition to a real being that is already in opposition to a true, loving, caring, full humanity. I am also an anti-religionist, and I do not have any difference in how I see religions. I see religions as a product of dogmatic propaganda. To me, it is a container with a label on it. And the stuff inside changes throughout time, place, including it changes within any and all given religions. There is not one religion today that is not a product of change, a product of evolution, including whatever faith you feel you have now is not the faith you probably had 10 years ago. This is a very interesting and epistemic question that we must actually ponder deeply. If we are seekers of truth, if an idea, if a faith, if a belief can actually move, change, grow, is it really fixed? And if the idea is not fixed, then we should investigate if it needs to grow more and evaluate that with a value stance. In other words, we need to understand, is this good, worth? Does it have enough credibility? Does it have enough support? Any idea that we cannot support, we should reevaluate for relinquishment. Does not mean that the idea is wrong. It just means that we need to be intellectually honest enough to say that something is not worthy. This is what actually brought me to atheism. I actually was very honest, and I was a Christian for 36 years. I never once in my entire life to that point ever doubted there was a thing called God, and that was a real being that lived somewhere or existed somewhere or had some power somewhere and could actually interact directly with this world. But this was a belief that I started to realize as I went to college was actually not supported enough for me to hold it as a true value, as a true belief. And I started to realize, what do I really have the right or the duty to believe? Upon such an inquiry stance and a total honesty, in fact, to the point that no belief that wasn't found worthy or honest had the right to be kept, I actually was willing to simply look at the facts. To me, some people try to say that atheists hate God. I hated absolutely nothing when I started to search. In fact, it was actually a love for the truth. It was a relationship that I started to build with the world around me, the facts and how they supported the truth that I wanted to hold. I started to realize that words only are given meaning when they are coherent to the ideas they're expressed. That an idea must have a correspondence to actual facts, or else the idea is empty. Does it mean, like if I said the Jolly Green Giant wrote a book, your first question should be, what is a Jolly Green Giant? Is there such a thing? Does it have the ability to write a book? Even if it wrote a book, why should I even care? This is actually, for me as an axiological atheist, is a very strong thing. Why should I even care about this idea called God when I see real people with real needs in the world? And these are things that I felt as a caring and loving person needed direct action. So actually, as an atheist and not as a theist, because as a theist, I had this, or as a Christian actually, to be accurate, as a Christian, I had this belief that God was going to come and save us. As a Christian, I believed that I could pray and people not connected me and not being benefited by me would be benefited. But as an atheist and a humanist, this completely changes. Because I started to realize if I don't do something, something does not get done. The curious fact is this doesn't change if you have a belief in theism. Having a belief in a God does not change the fact of the reality. It takes real people in the world to do real things. And so as an atheist, I've actually, when I was living in California, went down to an orphanage and helped the children down there. I have helped homeless. I have a very compassionate heart, and I realize that we need to do things in this world for people. The reason why goes back to my value theory stance, that there is actual quality and value to human life. And upon this, though, I feel a direct responsibility to challenge all and any ideas that remove human value. Ideas that actually become to where the person is believing they're doing something good and are actually doing nothing of the sort. This is very important for me personally, and that is why I go out to colleges and I talk to people. Although I do believe everyone owns themselves, but this comes from a place of value. I value you enough to know that you have rights, and I am not the one who's in control of you. But because I understand this, the idea of a God that tells me I do not have rights, and I actually have to give in to someone else's choice over my rights, I find to be a very vile and degrading to the humanity that I have and the humanity I see in others. I wish the world to understand value and understand worth. Upon such things, can we give qualities to the word good? Because good is not an idea, it is accumulation of things that equal something. It is accumulation of behaviors that produce a worthy outcome. This is very important for me, and that is why people always say, why do I try so hard? It is not out of hate, but it is out of care. It is truly because I see the worth that I feel absolutely compelled. I try to actually also be open to be challenged, because I only want the truth. So I also try to be as much as I can. I'm not a humble person. I tend to be on the brazen side of arrogance, but it's really not out of some love to be of my ego. It's actually a character flaw I'm still working on. But I never claimed perfection. Instead, I realize that this is a journey I'm on to becoming a person who is worthy of value. And I realize that something to say is worthy of value, it has to have qualities that can support the justification of such an idea. So when I say that I do not believe in a God, it is actually saying there is no quality given to me to support a justification of such belief. And as I already said, I see God and the concept or a real person, no matter the religion, as in a thing that is actually arbitrary and against humanity. And I was asked before many times in my life, how can an atheist be moral? And I try to think of it this way. How could someone who understands that the only thing we have is us not feel compelled to help others around them? It is not a hard thing. It is human compassion. This is actually not even limited to humans. We see it in animals. I love my cat loves me back. It's a reciprocal relationship. In a relationship, often I hear people say God loves. But love is a connected relationship that has to be justified. In other words, if I were to hit my wife every time I came home, if I were to threaten her if she's not home and food's not ready, that I'm going to be some sort of an outcome that is negative, that is not worthy of the label of love, because it has not fulfilled the correct status for such a justification. It's very important to me to understand that things cannot just be stated, they have to be supported, they have to be justified, they have to follow the rationale that are being offered. And I find that statements in all religions are offered as fact, regardless of information, with almost no support, with very flimsy to no justification, that in the real world. If I said, well, the Quran is correct because the Quran was written by God, that's not a justification. That is simply a bunch of words put together without a justification. I can say, well, I have a wife. My wife lives at home. I come home. She makes me food, thus we have love. That doesn't equal love. That is simply stating the qualities of fact. That is not proving the support of a justification worthy of the love. Love is an action and an idea. And it is a mental thing, an emotional response that we feel for others. And that, to me, is something that we need to understand. We cannot, should not, and any ethical person should not want to believe things that are not supported. I'm done.
You sounded smart to me.
Oh, done. I thought you said
Awesome. Thank you, Mr. AtHope. You still have some time if there's anything you want to add to that.
No, I'm done.
Thank you, audience, for your participation. Pastor Artur Pawlowski.
Well, I will say, if anyone's wondering that wasn't in the audience, the reason why I'm not standing is not because he's taking a position above me or anything like that, or me taking one below him. I actually have nerve damage in my foot, and standing for a long period of time could possibly, I don't know, it could possibly cause me to not be able to walk for some amount of time. So he's being respectful and allowing me to sit, so I appreciate that.
Whenever you're ready, right?
Okay. So what I'm going to do today might bore you a little bit. I'm going to read a lot, and I thought, especially for Damien, I wanted to come prepared and stage a real foundation. You know, I do debates all the time, but usually with my wife, and I always lose. So when Damien called me and said, Art, well, I would like to do a debate with you, I thought, okay, sure, let's do it. And I thought, I'm going to find someone that will actually do it. So, and then the next thing I noticed was my face and my name all over internet. Okay, debate between Damien and Art Pawlowski, okay. So, because I do not run from challenges, here we are tonight. So thank you for coming. My opponent claims that there are no gods and that they are not needed for morality. And actually that's the topic of our debate. Well, I actually agree with him. I also believe that there are no gods, and because they do not exist, we do not need them to have morality. However, I do believe that there is the God, the only one. the creator of heavens and the earth, the eternal one and the uncreated one. I also believe that you cannot have any moral standards without him. Everything starts with him and ends with him, including our ability to know what is right and what is wrong. Of course, you're capable to do moral acts even if you are an atheist. And Damien was talking about that. But not because you're good, but rather because there is a conscience planted in you at the conception. God-given law written on your heart. We are created in his image and with ability to be creative and to choose. Albert Einstein said there is only two ways to live your life. One is as though nothing is a miracle. The other is as though everything is a miracle. I have chosen the second way of life. I see everything as a miracle created by God. We are dealing with two belief systems, two worldviews, two concepts of the nature of ultimate reality. One is naturalism and materialism, which believes that this universe is all that exists, or multiverse. The other is theism, that there is creator behind all of it. Atheists believe that evolution is fact and we all simply evolved into morality that we can observe today. All of that through a very slow process, through millions of years of evolution. The theory of evolution, which is just that, a theory, and is still looking for its missing link, is simply a lie with unproven theories. The problem that I see is this: if we evolve into morality, can we also evolve out of it into something else? They are quick to say, we are you. Who are you to question the millions of years of evolution? And that's just a side note. I have no idea where they come with the millions and billions. Like, to me, it's ridiculous. We can't even really know what was 10,000 years ago, but we are throwing the millions like crazy drunkards. Well, I can and I should. Who are you to question the millions of years of evolution? Well, I can and I should, because if there is no God, there are no moral standards, there is no truth. Every society simply chooses what is right and what is wrong according to their own desires. No foundation we can turn to, no long-lasting building. Everything goes as long as we agree among ourselves what is acceptable and what is not. Everything goes as long as we agree. Just as Germans did when they democratically elected Adolf Hitler. They decided that some people are not humans anymore. People have flaws and we cannot base our lives on somebody's ideas that can change depending on the circumstances. And we see that all the time in America as well. When you watch the debates and the politics, never mind the media, don't watch the media. As an ex-builder, and that's what I did for a living before, I know how important it is to have a solid, strong foundation. You can build a very beautiful palace on a cracked or rotten foundation only to realize that all of your work is in vain. The building is destined to collapse. It is just a matter of when. The belief that atheists have is such a building and it is already breaking. If there is no one out there, then we are doomed, destined for chaos without purpose. I know that there is a master builder with a solid foundation for everyone that is willing to build their lives on it. He is personal and he has a name. That's Jesus Christ. Here's an interesting quote from John Lennon when it comes to evolution. I don't believe in the evolution of fish to monkeys to men. It's absolutely irrational garbage. They set up these idols and then they knock them down. It keeps all the old professors happy at the university. It gives them something to do. Everything they taught me as a kid has already been disproved by the same type of experts who made them up in the first place. Just a side note here, I looked at Damien's Facebook page and there was a comment from someone, I don't know who that person was, but he says, come and support Damien because the church is going to crush or stop the free thinkers. It's like somehow we're going to eat you people alive. And that's, to me, it's ridiculous. I'll tell you why. Because I sent a letter to about 30 university clubs, myself. And I asked them, will you host the debate? Will you allow the different point of views right here where we should have them? In university, right here, when the people are developing, their ideas. Yeah. Let's agree to disagree. You know that out of 30 about clubs that I emailed to, 2 replied that they're not interested. The rest completely ignored us. It's shocking to me. Because when I was growing up under communist dictatorship, at least we were free to explore all kinds of different ideas, just like here in the University of Calgary, as long as it was their ideas, communist ideas. So, a side note, if it comes to a Facebook comment that I look at today, and I was like, oh my goodness, they just don't know me. They don't know us. I don't eat children for breakfast. I have 3 and they're still here. If there is no one out there, then we are doomed, destined for chaos without purpose. I know that there is a master builder with a solid foundation for everyone. And like I said, his name is Jesus Christ. How can you trust what Damien says if it's just chemical reactions going on in his brain? See, chemicals don't reason, they react. Now I am not saying that there is no connection between our thinking and chemicals. There is, but if it's nothing but chemicals, how can we trust them? Even Darwin recognized this. It's called Darwin's doubt. He said, if we are just a product materially of primates, why should I even trust anything, much less my theory of natural selection, which still remains to this day a theory. The next major reason I am not an atheist is in the laws of mathematics. And I don't know if you're familiar what the scientists have discovered right now. The complexity, the DNA with billions of information in it. When you look at everything that surrounds us, the trees, the grass, everything, that has a certain code, a mathematical code. Every single thing that is alive has that code. Fascinating. And we know that if there is an information, there has to be a mind that brought forth that information. Science depends on the notion that the universe is rational and mathematical at all levels, but how does rationality and mathematics arise from randomness? How do they come from matter? Rationality and mathematics are the product of mind, not matter. If we are just molecules in motion, how do we have human freedom? William Provin from Cornell, he is a materialist, a Darwinist. He points out that we don't have any human freedom if all we are is molecules in motion. Now Damien ought not scold anybody. In other words, he should quit his evangelism for being a snake-handling, Bible-thumping, fundamentalist preacher, because according to his own worldview, the person is that way because these are just chemicals going on in his brain. It can't happen. I'm a Christian because that's how I was designed to be. Period. How can I help? How can you be angry at me? How can anybody be angry at anybody else? I was programmed that way. Can't help it. No amount of preaching is going to save me and change me. My DNA says I'm a preacher. So I am. I find that ridiculous, but let's go with these thoughts. They're just chemicals. People are that way because these are just chemicals going on in his brain. If that's the case, where do we get our morality from? Where do the universal laws come from? Bruce Glenson, an atheist, said atheism, and you will like that one, is a better worldview to live by. Wow, really? To make such a claim, you have to believe in absolute standards, and those you have to borrow from us, from our worldview. Let me give you a few arguments to support the existence of God. The cosmological argument, the universe came from something rather than nothing. The theological argument, the complexity in the universe presents the case for an intelligent designer. In other words, if there is a car, there is a designer. There's someone that built that car. If there is a building, we are in a building. I don't think anyone would suggest that this came from nothing. The moral argument, true morality comes from God. The resurrection of Jesus, the evidence of the resurrection has not been refuted to this day. It's contrary. We have evidence, historical evidence of his resurrection. And the immediate experience of God, experience as evidence for God. From the cosmological argument that this being must be spaceless, timeless, immaterial. Why? Because it created space, time, and material. Must also be powerful, because he created out of nothing. Must be personal, because you cannot go from the state of non-existence to a state of existence without making a choice, and only personal beings make choices. Impersonal forces do not. Why nature could not produce universal life? Because before there was nothing. All of scientists agree that things came from nothing. If it is not natural cause, by definition must be supernatural cause. Something beyond natural. Artur, the contemporary of Einstein, who was an expert in general relativity, said, "The beginning seems to present insuperable difficulties unless we agree to look on it as frankly supernatural." This leaves us with one question. Either no one created something out of nothing, or someone created something out of nothing. The atheistic view is that no one created something out of nothing. The theistic view is someone created something out of nothing. Stephen Hawking, physicist, had noted that the universe would not exist if there was a decrease in the expansion rate 1 second after the Big Bang, but only one part in 100,000 million. This led Hawking to conclude it would be very difficult to explain why the universe should have begun in just this way, except as an act of God, who intended to create beings like us. Nature is marked by clear design. The complexity of human body, of planets, stars, and galaxies, and even of bacteria assess to the existence of the creative agency. It is impossible that such things as independent species could come to exist without the guidance of God. Anthony Flew, who was a very prominent atheist, said, "It is impossible for evolution to account for the fact that one single cell can carry more data than all the volumes of the Encyclopedia Britannica put together." The evolution of human beings with free will and intelligence was impossible without intelligence and without unbelievable power. I do not believe in random chance. My faith is based on evidence that we can observe all around us. Universe, nature, and science. And Damien was trying to say, I believe I, but I have not heard any evidence to any of his claims. Science actually proves God's existence. You can't destroy matter. The Big Bang tells of everything coming into existence out of nothing. Well, obviously, there must be something to have made everything. Everything has a creator. And there comes morality. Why is stealing wrong? It is wrong because God is not a thief. Adultery is wrong because God is perfectly faithful. And we are all created in His image, and that's why deep inside of us we know what is right. I believe that atheists are denying the existence of God because they love their sin more than the truth. They are suppressing the truth in unrighteousness, acknowledging the fact that there is God, and one day they will have to be accountable for everything they say and do. Terrifies them. Such a thought is unbearable to them. They know that they are not living according to His standards. They know that they would have to change to be in a right standing with Him. For now they prefer the charade of denial. There is no God because I do not want to be accountable. They think that by simply denying the Creator, the problem is solved. There is no God, I do not have to change. In their worldview, with no God, no moral standards, they think that they can do whatever they want without any consequences. They have chosen their sin, the evil, and are not willing to stop this godless lifestyle. Without God, human value and dignity is an illusion. Laws of logic are not necessary and unchanging. Choice is rendered unless apart from God. Apart from God, you cannot provide a meaningful justification for claims to knowledge. You cannot prove anything, nor can you provide preconditions necessary for all that we take for granted. The uniformity in nature, laws of logic, and ethics. We the theists, on the other hand, stand on the laws that are unchanging. God's laws. God, the owner of everything in the whole universe, introduces himself to man through the flawless design in his creation. Furthermore, he revealed himself to us at the level we can actually understand. We are persons and he is person. And that makes sense. Now how can I know if you will not be willing to reveal yourself to me? How can I know you? You hold the key. God did just that. He came down, spent some time with us, and brought the solution to our problems that we were struggling with. The plan of salvation, Jesus Christ came, lived and paid the price for our crimes. Only God could do that. Only He had the power to bring us back from the dead. Perfect plan that came not from a weak man, but from the very one that created us and knows us. There is a personal God, good God, and He constantly is reaching to us like a good father to his son and his daughter. Because the relationship has been broken, He offers forgiveness, restoration, hope, and relationship. That's what happened on the cross. God revealed Himself in conscience, in revealing His law to His creation, in creation. You see, creation equals creator. Life has digital database, and I talked about that. It's got a language of its own, DNA. The only thing we know that is capable of producing languages is man. And atheists reject that by definition. If the universe created you, who created the universe? How did things get started? If we are in fact just molecules in motion, we cannot say that what Adolf Hitler did was wrong. It was just chemicals going on in his brain. Murdering man is not morally wrong. It's just your opinion. Dostoevsky said, if there is no God, everything is permitted. But what I do, I see it everywhere. The argument is that there is no way to say that a given act is moral or immoral unless there is a standard beyond humanity. There must be standard beyond everybody that claims what is right. That standard is God's very nature. Since objective moral laws exist, there must be an objective lawgiver. What is the modern molecule? How much does justice weigh? These are the questions that atheists have no answer in materialistic worldview. For them, conscience, heap of sand, and the human brain have the same elements. Why do some of carbon-based molecules have conscience and others not? Daniel Dennett, materialist, said that conscience is an illusion. See, as according to atheists, conscience is an illusion. Everything that is happening right now is an illusion. So you're not really here. I disagree. I think I'm here. You can pinch me. All of these things are coming from a great mind that granted us these immaterial realities. A very well-known atheist, Christopher Hitchens, the author of God is Not Great, I'm sure you're familiar with that book, said after being asked, what is the purpose of life? Listen to this. This is a very well-known atheist. He's an evangelist, actually, for them. He goes out, he has a mission to tell the whole world his worldview. This is what he says when he was asked, what is the purpose of life? Well, what cheers me up, he says, mainly gloating over the misfortunes of other people. mainly craving over the misery of others, gin in the Campari, cream in the coffee, and sex. You see, that's your standard without God and His moral truths. If God exists, objective moral standards exist, wholly independent of human beings. Damien has to explain to all of us, if there is no intelligent designer, God, how the universe arose from nothing, how extreme fine-tuning design arose from chaos, how life arose from non-life, how morality arose from materials, how reason and the laws of logic arose from the matter, how mathematics arose from molecules, how human freedom arose from blind, repetitive forces, how conscience arose from chemicals. How can you get from a single atom's elementary particles to brain, mind, eyes, and conscience? You, all of you, are a proof that there is God. If there is creation, there must be a creator. For since the creation of the world, God's invisible qualities, His eternal power and divine nature have been clearly seen, being understood from what has been made, so that people, that you, are without excuse. Becoming a real believer is not coming from unbelieving in God to believing in God. It is going from suppressing the truth to professing it. The atheist suppresses the truth that God exists. Everyone knows that He exists. This is not sufficient knowledge for their salvation, but is sufficient knowledge for their condemnation. And I'm almost done. Do you really believe that we evolved from fish? You see, we believe in mysteries that we can explain with God. Atheists believe in mysteries that they cannot explain. This is a moral universe. In an atheistic world, where is justice? Where does it come from? Where, if there is no God, there is no ultimate justice. Where does rationality come from? Why should we be even moral? People say, I cannot see Him, therefore He is not. You cannot see love or hate or happiness, but you can see the effects of them. From the atheistic point of view, it is impossible to see any value in human existence. Without objective morality being rooted in God, man is left with subjective relativism. According to their worldview, our thoughts are nothing more than brain bark, chemical reactions, and they want to hold us to a standard that they simply cannot justify without God. I have confidence in what I believe in. The word comes from a Latin word confide. It means with faith. It is absurd to reject absolutes absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you, Pastor Pawlowski. Thank you, audience. We'll take a minute to re-establish microphones and water or anything that anybody might need.
Go there, water.
Yeah.
Please.
And we'll go into the rebuttal phase for both people. Thank you. You're good?
Right on.
Shall we? You want to rebut?
That's fine.
Put it on the clock?
Yeah. So, George, let's look.
If we're going to go back and forth.
Yeah, you got it.
So up first, Mr. AtHope with his rebuttal for Pastor Pawlowski.
I think that you did a wonderful job doing research. And mixed in with that research, I must feel you added personal opinion. And I want to question, is that personal opinion justified, matching facts, or are you taking license with opinions? You stated atheists believe that there is a God. You said atheists are worried about hell or something to that nature. Do you know atheists personally? I'm just wondering.
Yes, I do.
I know thousands of atheists, as you probably saw on my Facebook. Never have I heard an atheist mention any of the statements that you stated as factual statements, not your opinion about what they're doing. So it's an ontological question I'm asking you. Are you an honest person with what you presented? Or do you believe that you might have offered opinion as fact? Because to me, what I was hearing was that you were stating that this is a fact that for some reason, that I obviously do not know, but you do, that what atheists are doing and why they're doing it. And you didn't say that you believe that's what they're doing. You said that that is what they believe. And you certainly, sir, are not referring to me. I do not believe there's a God. I feel no worry about God any more than I worry about what Stay Puft the Marshmallow Man will do to take the air out of my marshmallows. To offer that I, as an atheist, would have to have that belief, which must be your opinion, offered as fact, sir, would be to project something with some sort of either error or in falsehood. Now, if this falsehood was offered as a form of propaganda, it would be intentional lying. It would be very interesting if you would offer intentional lies in a debate that you claim moral superiority over an atheist in a moral argument to discern who actually can do morals or how they can be applied. To actually offer an inaccuracy intentionally, sir, would not be just dishonest. It would actually be a lowering of your character. And I'm not saying you did that. I simply am asking, please present the evidence to support your claim this is how atheists believe. Because certainly, I could be an atheist that's just different. I could know thousands, which I do, probably at least 30,000 atheists, never heard that statement. So, but I also could be not understanding some special knowledge or some research that you did. Could you please clarify for all of us how you know that that's what atheists believe?
Okay, let me read it again for everyone. I guess you missed that. That's okay. Well, let me read from a little bit from 18. I started with 20, but for your sake, I'll do the whole.
First off, what are you reading?
It's Romans. It's
Okay.
Bible.
It's
Romans 1:18. The wrath of God is being revealed from heaven against all the godlessness and wickedness of men who suppress the truth by their wickedness. Since what may be known about God is plain to them, because God has made it plain to them. For since the creation of the world, God's invisible qualities, His eternal power and divine nature have been clearly seen, being understood from what has been made, so that men are without excuse.
So, upon that offering, that is Paul's opinion of unbelievers. Is that correct? Am I understanding that correctly? Or is Paul saying he heard atheists say that they believe that unbelievers actually believe that? Or is he just saying that they think that way in his opinion or in his a summation of the reality of the world?
Let me get a sophomore calling. So listen, what happened is we can ask Apostle Paul and ask him who he was talking to about, about this portion of Scripture, but we do know that the Word of God is the Word of God that came from Him for our benefits. So when I read this Scripture and it says that every human being is born with the knowledge that there is creation around him, and the creation is speaking of its creator, that's sufficient to me. If you are asking for my personal opinion, because what I read over there, it was just facts. If you're asking me for personal opinion, then I can tell you that I have counseled thousands of atheists. I have been attacked by many atheists. I usually being attacked by them from time to time. And I have talked to them. In the end of the day, every one of them, if that person was honest, would acknowledge that, you know what, I do believe there is something out there. They may not call it God, they may not call it Creator, they may call it something, some power, but they have this God-given conscience in them that they know everything that surrounds us is not by chance. So I have a question now for you.
Well, let me just respond to that.
Let's go a few minutes.
So, you're now admitting that when you stated that this was a fact,
Yes.
this was not a fact. Can we say that you simply made an error out of your passion? Or are you going to say that it was something more than that? Because it certainly does not match what you actually stated. So I'm asking you, again, was this an error? Or was this an intentional propaganda that you offered from your opinion as a fact?
Neither.
Mr.
Neither.
AtHope, could you clarify the statements exactly for the
He
audience?
states an atheist loves their sin, an atheist is fearing God and doesn't want to actually acknowledge it. I don't remember that. He read a long litany of things, all presented with the presumption that these were actually what atheists believe. This is what atheists think. This is why atheists think it. Atheists want to love sin, and they believe in God. They just want to live their life. They want to reject God.
But why
Sir, you did not say, I feel this. Paul stated this. You actually presented it as an ontological fact, and it was in error.
No.
Unless you have something to validate your statement.
You know,
I'm willing to understand its passion, but I need to hear you say to all of us, because you offered it, and I'm trying to have it an honest. Is that something that you are willing to say, that you were passionate and you erred in how you presented your statement on atheists?
not at all.
Not at all.
It's not my opinion, it's based on the fact. When I start
Hold
answering-
on, it is something that's stated as a fact, doesn't have qualities that can justify it's a fact. So if I just say, right now, there's a pink elephant, should you believe that, or do I need to state something, fact in the world that can be duplicated, presented, understood, coherent? So you presented, this is what they are doing. Would have been better. But you said atheists think this, believe this, are behaving this way, out of choice, knowing. And they willfully do this. I want to hear you say, this was a passionate misstep. This was an error in what you did. Because if you do not, sir, then I will assume it was an effort to mislead. Because that is, I'm sure if you looked at my thing, you also can't say that I would agree with any of those statements. And if it was an attempt to mislead, then I find it really moral, reprehensible to do that in a debate on morality when your opponent is actually trying to be honest with you.
So I think for the past 5 minutes you're asking the same question, and I think I answered you. I stated facts, I believe in those facts. The same way, do you believe there was Alexander the Great in a history? Do you take it as a fact? The same way, the historical books are talking
So I will
second. The historical books are talking about all kinds of different people that were living and what they were saying. We take it as a fact, historical accounts. The Bible is also a historical account. And I take it, as it says over there, that the people, all people, it doesn't say just the believers, just the Muslims, just the Africans. It says all people, do they know that they have been created. They're suppressing the knowledge for their personal reasons, whatever it may be. Because of their backgrounds, because of their family, because of their tradition, because of the circumstances in life, whatever it may be, why they are angry at God or not, they are suppressing the truth. Either it's for selfish reasons of sinning, there is no God, so there is no hell, let's do whatever we want, or because they hate God and they hate religion so much because of their past experiences that they are willfully choosing this possibly cannot be God, because if God stands for something awful like this, and the people that represent Him are so bad, I hate it, I don't want to have anything to do with me. I think the problem you're making is, what most of the people are doing is, they are putting experiences and the people, what people do, they associate the actions of people with God. And when I grew up in the communist dictatorship, that's what I did. That's exactly what I did. Should we be using mine?
Yeah, no, that's fine. So,
Yeah, I like that, because then you have to pass it off.
fine. So you said that the Bible, where it states this statements about what he believes the people that are unbelievers are doing, you said it's a fact. Well, it's a fact that it's written in a book. That would be the fact, because I understand there is a book right there. In fact, I understand there is a Bible. That does not even mean that Paul, the name that's given to some of the writers of the book, doesn't mean we know you know what Paul is. And even if I grant you the argument, sir, that there was a person, Paul, even that he had these beliefs about things, even if he had beliefs they were somehow, that is not history. That is not fact. That would be simply that Paul, at a certain given time, had an opinion that then you accept, which is fine for you to do. I told you, I am willing for it to be that you were passionate, but how you presented it is different than Paul even presented it. He actually presented it with, it seems to be, more epistemic honesty than I believe that I've heard how you presented it. Another thing that's
I'm sorry, Mr. AtHope,
Okay.
we're out of time for your rebuttal.
Okay,
I can give you a closeout minute if you need.
that's fine.
Thank you.
Well,
We'll move to the question and answer period now.
so do I have a rebuttal?
Yes, go for it.
Okay. You know, you're right. I came prepared because this is my first formal debate. So I was a little bit worried that I may not be the right person to debate you, because you have done it. I didn't.
This is actually also my first formal debate.
Okay.
So we are actually equals.
So I didn't know that. I had many debates with my wife. I lost them all, so I was a little bit terrified to come and lose another one. But like I said before, I took the challenge because that's what I do. I'm not running away from the battlefield. If someone wants to fight, well, we will fight. And I really enjoy this already. But what I'm puzzled with is I've heard you talk, and you talked about your beliefs, but I have not heard one fact. And this is mind-blowing for me, because I was expecting something powerful, strong, that would knock me off my horse, and I would say like, my God, I need to spend 2 weeks in the mountains to pray about that. I have heard nothing. I've heard an opinion of a man about there is no God because I say there is no God. And then you said religion propaganda. I'll tell you something, I think I'm the wrong person to talk about it, because I hate religious, fascists, because most of the time, those people they have nothing to do with my God and my Jesus. They are religious people, they bring propaganda, and you're absolutely right. I'm right with you on that. I hate when people are using religion for their personal reasons. And I see it everywhere. And as you know, I am not much liked by the religious people either.
I'm no friend.
So, I've heard lots of I believe, I this, I that. I have never heard not even one fact. There is no God. I think that's the topic. I presented you with facts. You look at the car and there is someone that created that car. You look at the human being, you look at the Bambi or black bear that I'm hoping to shoot tomorrow. I'm going hunting. I know I'm a terrible person. But I see creation, I see the beauty of the creation, and I know, I don't have to think twice. Behind that, there must be creator, the table, the microphone. I don't think that it just came from nowhere. It was built, it was made. You know what really touched me? You said that if God would actually exist, even if He would exist, if He would show Himself to you and say, I am the Lord Almighty, the creator of heavens and the earth, the one that created you for a purpose and for a reason, you said you would openly oppose Him.
Accurate.
Why is that?
I presented the rationale for that thing. A God is a violation of my and everyone's humanity and human rights. Because a God comes in and says, you will behave according to my chosen human rights, not yours. And in fact, God has no problem of the Bible, I would say Bible God, so I can clarify, since we already could stop talking about gods, we're talking about your God of the Bible. And I would say that, well, to me, I actually require ideas to be justified. Now, it's funny that you want to bring up the God and that He has the place of morality, because the beginning of the book is Genesis. In the beginning of the book, there's a tree. The tree of knowledge of good and evil. Is that not morality? So people were not born with morality. That was supposedly the sin. It was the sin. To actually learn the knowledge of good and evil, which the understanding, in other words, a child, would you say, is born with full knowledge of good and evil? No, they're not. And we know it's actually a step process that this occurs. This is very important, because if we are going to be honest, we have to hold a, as you said, absolute standard. But if there's an absolute standard, it also has to be applied to the idea that it's created in. So, you have two people supposedly in the garden with a tree they don't know morality about until they actually eat it. The moment that they eat it, they're actually considered to be sinning, learning about morality, they're learning about, and they actually are condemned for it. The sin in the world that we're all talked about that's hurting us is the actual morality to understand what sin would even be. To actually punish any being that has no understanding of morality is itself a violation of morality. Because if you understand and stand outside of, you cannot condemn one that does not know. And I'm saying this is the fact that not the ability to know. Because if you had not yet eaten of the tree, you would not yet know the knowledge of good and evil. But actually it's worse. Because how were these unknowing, childlike beings being left without protection? One of the most offensive things to me about Genesis, if it would be true that a loving father let children that were unknowing of morality to hang out with the supposed snake, the most evil being. Would you let your children hang out with a serial killer? Most people, if they have any moral integrity at all, would say no. But the supposed giver of all morality did just that. I'm almost done. The other thing is, what if, we have to ask, what if they didn't eat of this? Would the tree miraculously go away? Thank you for passing the test of not even knowing morality. How wonderful, as you said, without having God or understanding morality, you were able to understand, don't eat. You're not eating, we'll take the tree away, everything's fine. Now you can live in peace and wonder. No. That tree, if it would not have been eaten, would have gone nowhere. It, to me, is a booby trap, waiting upon the first person, whether it was 1 generation or 1,000, 10,000 generations. In the moment that they ate of the tree, in a state of moral ignorance, would then be condemned. But this is what a moral person would do. They would condemn the person that did the person that did the exact action, the person that made the exact wrong choice. But no, the supposed offered loving God with all perfect morality, he actually blames the entire ever humanity that can come after thousands, 10,000s, no matter how long humanity lasts, would now be punished for the crime of 2 people who were not even aware what moral is. Thank you.
You took my whole rebuttal, my friends. Now I have to one question.
Well, I did give you more time to do your speech.
That's true.
So there's no...
But he cut him off earlier, I think, at one point.
You know, you have children?
No, I do not.
You don't have children. I have 3 children, and it's a fascinating topic. If we go into being a father and raising kids and watching all of that, I have never understood God really until I became a father myself. Where does the freedom to choose comes from? If my children say they love me, but there is no way for me to actually knowing if they do. It's just words, nothing more. When I look at my children or my wife, I look into something a little bit more than just words. Do not, or do it, or I love you, and that's it. I expect action. So how God would know, from the perspective of man, because he knows everything, but for our sake, that we actually will respect him, will love him, and will obey him. After all, he created this world for his sake, and he included us in his plans. So it's like saying to a table that the table was not designed according to your wishes, but who cares? Who cares really, in the end of the day, in all due respect, who cares what you think or what I think if it comes to him, the lawgiver, the creator. He makes the rules, period. Either we like them or we don't, he makes them. You said, we'll talk about this later, but you said you like to help people.
Yep.
You help homeless, it's said, and you said it today as well, and then orphans.
Yep.
You fed them.
Yes, I did. And I also donated money, yeah. And I went down into Mexico to an orphanage. Mexico actually doesn't have official orphanages. People have to do it. So when I found that out, I felt compelled to go down there. I'm not trying to take your time.
No,
you asked
that's
a
okay.
question.
So
I'm trying to...
So you value life.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Yes.
Well, I also looked at your website. Maybe I'm mistaken, but you also support abortion.
I support not abortion. I support people's right to make a choice with their body. While a being is in their body, they have a right to their body.
So in other words, they have a right to murder a child as long as it's their child.
Well, I didn't say it's murder. I reject that equivocation of a term. First off, if you want to ask what my opinion is first about abortion and the right to have the choice, I can give you a full summation, then you will understand. I do not believe in late-term abortion. I believe there's a certain point that as soon as the thing that's growing inside is the ability to feel pain, then I think it starts to be incumbent upon us to understand that that makes a relative, that being is at a stage that would almost, unless the mother's death, would need to have, the right. Also.
We are out of time.
Are you?
So, you're talking about value life.
You know, just to close this thought, you are feeding, or you have been feeding homeless and taking care of the orphans, yet at the same time you believe that some orphans should not be alive, or they're not as valued as the ones that you're feeding. So let me ask you this, where does good and evil come from? Where does morality comes from? Because now there are two people sitting here with totally different views on children. I love children, therefore I will never harm them, and I would do everything in my power to stop other person from harming them. You are selectively choosing where is good to feed them and save them, and you're selectively choosing where a mother has a right to actually slaughter her own child only because it's a small child. It's not yet a bigger child. I don't get that. I'll tell you why that touched me, because we have orphanage as well in Kenya, and I went there, and I'm absolutely, my heart melted when I saw those kids, and I can imagine not seeing them there only because their mothers would make a different choice. I don't get it. Where does your moral standards are coming from? Because it's a mixed message, at least for me.
So with that question, we'll move right into the question and answer period. And how
I had a
that will
question.
work- No, the audience will wait. So how this should work is you answer the question,
Well, but
ask him a question, and then hand back the mic, and that way we don't have mic issues.
but I was going to ask you. I have no problem with opening it up to, because I think that
Let's save the audience till after, please, just so that we can go through. You know, you've traveled a long way to be here. The two speakers are the ones that are here. They're the ones that are meant for this cause at this time. The audience, they will take a few questions at the very end, and we can go that way. Thank you. Thank you.
no problem. So you want me to ask him a question?
No, answer his question.
Oh, answer his question.
Yes.
So I feel like you actually are using two things together, because you made a statement that's untrue about me. You said I care about different orphans. An orphan is a child that has actually been born and then left from the parent for some reason. And it doesn't always have to do with the fact that the parent didn't care. The parent may have died. Orphan is a word that has to do with, so if you're going to use words, I do care about. And I obviously, if I'm willing to go down to Mexico when I'm from the United States, I do care about all children. I don't have a orphan opinion about one orphan or another orphan. And also in California, I actually worked for a few months in a thing that was an after-school program for children who were basically from a rough neighborhood or a less, established monetarily, and they gave them food. And I went there, and they helped them play, and they make a safe environment, because some of these areas are rough. So I do care. So I really do not appreciate you saying I don't care about orphans. Once again, I said to you that as long as you're in the body, you cannot make the person. Just like for me, it's not mixing the message. Everyone owns themselves. This is not a mixed message. And that's an exact point of why I said God, real or otherwise, would be to accept a violation of self-ownership. And it always is interesting to me when people are so worried about abortion, when they have no problem. I have never heard a Christian yet who was bothered by the flood, all the children. Just think, if God did something wrong, or he feels that the creation didn't do what he wants, it's very interesting to me, he could have simply attacked the idea and changed their hearts. Because he didn't care about their will, he killed them all.
So do you have a question?
So how do you hold a standard that all life is valuable when you don't seem to have any problem with the flood?
I'll tell you why I don't have a problem. Because that was not my problem to to start with. I'm not the creator. I don't know everything. My knowledge is very limited. But let me try to explain it to you why furthermore, I don't have a problem with killing. I have a problem with murdering, and I believe that women that are murdering children in their rooms, it's a murder, it's not killing. I have no problem with killing. I'll tell you why. Because I grew up in a country that was attacked for centuries by all kinds of neighbors, Germans, Russians.
Could you tell the audience what country it is they don't know?
Poland. I'm from Poland. So I grew up in a country that was torn into pieces by neighbors. And I remember the stories and the history that my grandparents and teachers were telling us about what happened. And I think in our societies we can come to become so evil, so bad, that there is absolutely no solution for that particular group of people to change, including children. For example, you are familiar with, you go to Mexico and you know that...
I just want to make sure I understand. So it is okay to kill children? I'm just asking if that's what you were saying.
Let it finish.
No, I'm clarifying.
Finish.
I'm clarifying. So I don't want to misunderstand you.
Well, okay, fair. Let me explain this a little bit more. For example, in Islam, there are children with machine guns that are shooting at people. I want to think, if I am in a situation that I see some young kids shooting at other people, women and children, and they are being willful tools in these atrocities, I think if I had the power and I could do something about it, I would. So, if that makes me an evil person, then I don't think we understand the meaning of what is good and right. I believe that a man is required to do certain things sometimes to save others. So, I was getting into my argument that growing up in a country that was attacked by Germany and Russia, and hearing from my grandparents the stories of raping children, raping elderly women, tearing them apart, cutting them, torturing them, I think a society reaches a point, an evil society, that it's a right thing for God, if He chooses so, He created them, to make His decision, to either create a better model, I say, or to start this whole thing from the beginning. And that's what happened after the flood. The people, it says that every single thought that they had was evil. Every single thought. Can you imagine? I don't think every single thought you have, it's evil. But those people reached a point of no return. They were constantly doing evil. They were pursuing evil. I don't know what they were doing. The Bible is not clear. I assume they were torturing, raping, murdering everyone everywhere, because they were evil. So I think it's up to God, if He is the creator, like I believe, to make that decision, whatever He wants to do with His creation. For example, if my car will blow up while I'm driving with my kids, I think it's up to me to destroy it, if I choose so, because it's endangering my family. The same concept, God is the creator. We have to bow our knees and accept that no matter what we believe, no matter what we say, in the end of the day, He is the lawgiver. It's His standards. By your standards, you can't even say what's right and wrong. In one instance, you save children. In another, you're allowing mothers to murder children. And I say that's immoral and that's wrong.
Do you have a question in that?
So my question is, Damien, are you mad at God because of religious people and their hypocrisy? Are you mad at God because of what happened to you or what you observed others to do in the name of religion, in the name of Jesus or Christianity? Is that the case? Is that what stirs you to a point that you are willing to spend your entire life right now fighting it?
I guess I must not have clarified it. There is no God. I have no belief. I remember my mom when she said she wanted to pray for me on the phone. She didn't know that I had turned atheist. And she on the phone said to me, "Let me pray for you," and I was silent. And then she said, "Are you mad at God?" And that was the first time that I was able to answer your question as the way I answered her question. I don't know what you're talking about when you use the word God. There is nothing that I see attached to that in the world. So I cannot be angry at something I don't even understand what you're talking about. You're simply putting together words and you're calling it a thing. I see nothing. I've been presented no evidence. And there is, now a secondary question you asked, do I dislike what religious people are doing? If religious people are harming people, then I have a problem with it. If atheist people are harming people, I have a problem with it. I value human life. So it doesn't really matter to me. And yes, I do think that people should be consistent, with their ideas. And I do think that people that go out and use religion to harm people is wrong. But I also would say, like, if an atheist used atheism to go harm people, I would be against that.
Do you have a question?
I do. Well, I thought I was answering his question.
Now you're gonna.
No, now it's your turn. It's a good question.
Getting confused when I'm answering a question. Okay. I think the audience would have been a little bit interesting, but okay. So
They'll get their turn.
So, what I wanted to ask you, do you believe that, because you said that God owns us, so do you believe that at least you can agree with that I am consistent in saying that what I do not like is that a God, if real, would be able to violate my humanity and remove my rights? Would you agree that that is accurate of my belief?
Well, first of all, Damien, what are your rights and where do they come from? Who is the lawgiver? Where is the morality coming from? What is good? What is wrong? According to whom? I'll give you an example. I have 3 kids, like I said, and I have a wife. Do I own them? Just wait a second.
Oh, I didn't.
Can I harm them? Can I do it in such a way that no one will know? Do I have power over them when they are young? My oldest one, I think, he would put up a fight, but the youngest one, maybe not yet. You're getting my point? Do I own them? Are they my slaves because I have power over them? Because I lead them into morality? Because I tell them what they can or cannot do? Am I a dictator in my house? Do I hate them or do I love them? Do I created them, of course, with the Spirit of the living God, for a purpose? And what is that purpose? To give me pleasure of having children, to have someone after me when I die, to have the legacy of my name. Am I a dictator or am I actually a loving father that loves them and yet at the same time has the power over them? So your question is this, as I see it: God is not just because He has the power to violate your rights. Well, I established that I don't think where you are getting your rights from thin air, because when I speak about rights and morality, I know where that comes from. It's unshaken, it's a foundation. I found this in the Word of God, and it cannot be moved. So I know what good and evil is. It comes to you, I don't know where you get this idea from. Also, is because God is powerful, and He can do whatever He wants. Does that makes Him evil, a dictator, a fanatic, a cruel man, like I've heard from atheists before? Or simply, this is God that created this for a purpose, for a reason. He ordained laws, and He says, follow those laws, and it shall be well with you. Break the laws, like the law of gravity. You believe in the law of gravity, right?
Are you asking me 6 questions, or
No.
is there one question? Because
I'm just answering. The law of gravity is unchangeable, either we believe in it or not. It doesn't matter if you say there is no law of gravity and you jump out. It will change nothing. It will be just big, and that's it. So, because he is a lawgiver and because he created this whole thing for his purpose, that doesn't make him an evil tyrant. The same way it does not make me an evil tyrant just because I have power over my kids, at least at this moment, and I can hurt them or I can bless them. So, because I'm not a tyrant, an evil man, I bless them. But what would stop me from being an evil dad and beating them up and being cruel and doing all kinds of things? So that's my
You gotta
answer.
wrap up the question.
My question is this, and I asked that question before. Where are your proofs? The debate is there are no gods. Where is your proof there are no gods? I presented you with the evidence of everyone sitting here that there is God. You have not presented me with anything that there is no God. Where are the facts about your statements? Because what I hear again, and I said that before, is just your belief.
You're once again,
So-
you're not making a single question.
So
Where is the proof?
So the question is, what are you basing your facts upon? What are your facts that there is no God? What is your foundation of that belief?
I did address this at the beginning. To me, an atheist is a one who accepts the world as it presents itself.
The question, please, was facts.
It is a fact. The world presents
It's
itself.
your idea.
There is no substance that we can point to and say this is supernatural. Nothing. You claim that there's something added to nature which is actually not evident in nature. This is not able to be defined. This is not able to be presented. This is not able to be allocated. This is not able to be put into place, even if there was such a substance. How would we even know? Because please do tell me how you would know that substance has to have a mind.
You, man, you're the miracle. You're the miracle, man.
You're
Yes,
talking.
please.
Sorry.
Please, guys.
So, to me, it's, as I told you from the beginning, it's a journey in honesty. And one needs to be epistemically honest and say to themselves, I will not accept facts not in evidence. It is a fact there's a table. Show me where this table also has a quality of magic. There is no supernatural. If there's no supernatural, you can't even build the context of God on it. To simply say that how could I know there's no God? The same place I know that there's no Stay Puft the Marshmallow Man or the Jolly Green Giant. They are simply conceived ideas by the human mind presented on top of a nature that we do know. You did say DNA, so you actually are using a fact. It is funny how you are so willing to accept one scientific fact and reject another scientific fact. You want to know how I know things, what are the facts of the world? We can, as you said, look around. We know we're here, we're in this room. I'm in Canada. I'm not in the United States. I know that I'm sitting next to a human being. I know the human being has a mind. You asked, and that is the answer. The answer is, you simply are epistemically honest. You accept reality as it presents itself. If you have a fact of the supernatural, it needs to be presented. There has never been a scientific proof of the supernatural. There's never been a proof of prayer. In fact, there's been several prayer studies that have done the exact opposite. So we have science that tells us, we have the studies that have shown to fail, and then, like I said, we have the philosophy, because really everything comes down to that how do we know anything? And we should only build ourselves upon what we can know. No one in this room has a special knowledge to prove and show and demonstrate something that is a miracle. If you can do so, do it now.
So, hold on,
Is that the question?
hold on to the mic. Hold on to the mic, please. Artur. 1 second. So just to summarize for the audience, for clarity, are you saying that that your facts are that there are no facts supporting theism?
Well, there's no facts even supporting anything supernatural.
But is that your statement?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Do you have a question for Artur?
Yeah, I have a question. Please, if you have these facts, present them now. Show me, anyone in this room, even the smallest amount of something miraculous.
Sure.
Small, yeah, please.
Sure, I think you're wrong. You picked the wrong person. When you look at this man right there,
Yeah.
16 years ago, he was born with a heart on opposite side and a smashed lung. And the best specialists in Canada said that he's not going to survive, he's not going to live. They said to unplug him from the machinery because there is no way he can survive, he can live on his own. They said that even by a miracle, even if he will live, he will be a vegetable for the rest of his life. I'll tell you what we did. We prayed. And I know you don't believe in God and you don't believe in the prayer. But this young man is 16 years later, right here, doing the camera work as a proof that prayer do work and God answers prayers. When we prayed, within a few hours the heart moved to its natural place and a lung, which is medically impossible, started to grow. And where is my evidence? I have 3 books from the hospital. You're welcome to go through them. I have a surgeon's report that when she opened him up, she said there's not even a trace of a lung. I also have x-rays that are showing that there is no lung and the heart is on the opposite side. So explain to me, and this is just one example. And the example is actually sitting in front of you. It's not somewhere out there for me to just, I've heard of this. This is what happened in me. As a pragmatic businessman, I did not believe in miracles. I did not believe in something that I could not see until that moment. It happened to me. He is alive. There is no medical explanation. A prayer changed the circumstances. God himself interfered with the life of this young man and in my family. He's a living testimony and example. And not just because I say so, because the medics, the surgeons are saying so. When they came to me to show me the x-rays, they said, we cannot explain what happened. We, as through medical examination, we cannot say that something we did could change the circumstances. But we do see that there is a clear intervention of someone that you, because of course they are not believers, just like you, that there was God. But we called your son a star baby, a baby that came from the stars. He should not be alive but is alive, he should not breathe but is breathing. And they examined him years after, and they did all the tests, and you know that my son every single time came without even having an allergy. Perfect in body, mind, and everything. So here's my proof. It's a personal proof, but the proof has 3 volumes of medical evidence and a dozen of x-rays. You're welcome to come and have a look. When we came here, I offered you a present that you rejected. Now I'm going to offer to you again, because the x-rays are right here. This is a story of my son and my life. You're welcome to watch it, and you're welcome to challenge me for the next debate, if this is actually true or not. So here it is.
I'm not interested in that.
Thank you, Art. That actually brings to a close the question and answer between the 2 debaters and opens the floor up to the audience. You can have a seat. Yes. So what we're going to do is we have scheduled time for about 7 questions. And if it runs over after that, that is entirely up to these 2 individuals and anybody willing to stay. So we ask that the audience keeps the question civilized, that everybody who is not asking a question or waiting for an answer be silent in respect to those that are asking the question and waiting the answer. Thank you.
Just want to make a comment that Damien, I think that the audience for camera doesn't know that wow, this is hard speaking. The audience is predominantly a Christian audience, and especially when you first came, that there was a lot more Christians here. I thought it was gonna be the opposite actually. Props to you for just standing your ground, keep your composure in that environment. It kind of tips the scale socially a little bit that way. So I just want to say that we recognize that. Also,
just a second. For the sake of, I don't know how to do that with the microphone.
George, the fluff.
You know what,
No.
let's set it up over here at the podium. The question taker can come
Because
to
then
the
the answers,
podium.
you won't be able to hear the answer.
Oh.
yeah. So I was just saying that for George and Fluff here, that the audience seemed to be predominantly Christians, including when Damien started, and that just to his credit that he socially tips the scale with us. Anyways,
Yes, thank you. Mr.
respect. That's all. That's
So,
all right.
so the question is,
The question is, after I make the statement that you are actually in a battle that I am also in. I believe that, personally, I just say this as my view, that Christianity, North American Christianity, a lot of Christianity you've seen has, messed you up, and I've gone through a lot of kind of pain through that. But that doesn't mean that it represents Jesus. And when you say that you're a Christian and
Restating your summation of my argument.
I do have a question. I just want to say, I don't want to say the word your argument.
You were inaccurate how you restated. Please just ask the question.
And then bring the microphones, both of the microphones back here on the table.
okay.
I can stand up for one.
Well, from what I heard twice, what you were saying, basically that it was kind of an offensive thing that God should basically hold you accountable morally and tell you what you can do right and wrong.
Ask your
And I just seen that as comparison to like our government, our society.
Please ask the question, sir.
Well, how do you reconcile that the police have to make sure some people can't molest kids and some people can't murder people, and that's a moral good thing, and that I say, doesn't God have that position? So if that's offensive to you, that God would keep you accountable, well, what about with the police in society? Should they not keep you accountable?
thank you.
And I love you.
Thank you. So I'm not going to restate my argument because that's not what it's about. But it wasn't an accurate representation of what I said. But let me just go to the actual answer to the question that was asked. So you made a comparison of God and police for your question. Well, police actually don't give laws. They don't make laws. They actually are under kind of a social contract that the general public with their representatives come to that conclusion. So actually it is a accepting of individual rights that supposedly is why police are actually doing that. That is a completely different thing that is presented on what God is doing.
Okay.
Excellent. Does anybody have a question for Pastor Pawlowski? Yes, please.
Should I go up there?
Yes, please.
Yes, please come up to the microphone so we can.
Thank you very much. So my question is, like with the massiveness of the universe and all of that, and all of the unknown that we have, do you not think it would be more satisfying or more complete to, instead of just answering these unknowns with God did it, or it said this in the Bible, to actually go out and research these things, and through the process of elimination and the scientific method, to actually learn the causes of these things? For example, the original origins of life, the beginnings of the universe, medical unknowns. Would it not be better to instead research these and actually figure them out, instead of just assuming that they're God? And if, researching them and discovering them, they do turn out to be God, you feel that much more justified?
Okay, thank you.
Maybe just clarify a little short, you got that, Art?
No, I got that.
Okay, thank you.
Well, I believe that science does not exclude the belief in the Bible, actually complements it. I'll answer you this way. Evolutionists for the past 150 years were telling you that we do not need God anymore because we have the evolution. Evolution explains it all. You know, we don't need God. We replace Him. Evolution tells you that what happens after you have life. It doesn't tell you where the life came from. And Darwin said a famous statement. He says, nature does not jump. And he was right. Nature becomes in an instance. But for 150 years, they were telling you one thing, and for the past 2,500 years, Aristotle believed that there was a steady state universe. And that was the science for the past 2,500 years. So for all this time, the scientists that you put your blind faith into were wrong, and the Bible was right. Because we know that, and I'm sure you believe in the Big Bang Theory, right? You believe that there was a big boom, and everything came to be. You believe that. That's what evolution believes. So the scientists for the 2,500 years were saying that that was not the case. Now we have the evidence that that's actually what happened. And the Bible is very clear. I'll read it to you. That that's actually what happened, believe it or not. That's why I take this book and I have such a faith in this book. Not in men, not in society, not in all those smart people that believe that their grandparents are in the zoo swinging. You know, I take my wisdom from here, and it actually proving itself over and over and over and over again to be right with archaeological discoveries, with history, with everything, with biology. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth, and the earth was formless and empty. Darkness was over the surface of the deep, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the waters. And God said, Big Bang, let there be light. And there was light. You know, it sounds, you know how it sounds to me? It sounds to me that all the scientists are actually now are getting it right. I believe that for 2,500 years ago they were wrong. Now they are starting to get it right. But the Bible was right from the very beginning. That's where I get my faith from, and it's unshaken because it's proven over and over again.
Thank you. Do we have a question for Mr. AtHope from the audience?
That's joking. That's joking.
Please, yeah, come to the podium.
Thanks for coming, Damien, and sharing. I had an opportunity to look on your video of where you described your home life and how you were raised in a almost cultish religious type of atmosphere.
Correct.
But you have very firm ideas about what a father should be and what your father was not. I took that from what you said.
Okay.
And I just don't understand. Do you understand that you're drawing your concepts of a good father from what God is? And there's really no basis to say your father didn't do a good job unless you have a standard outside of your father that you're referring to. So where do you find the standard for who the father, the good father is, that you can evaluate your dad or your mother that went hippie, I guess. So, and that can happen to anybody, but it seems a really intense combination happened to you. So where did you find the standard for a good father?
Thank you.
Where would I find a good standard for a father? Well, it would really go back to the statement of what is good. And it would go back to the what is the position of father? Because father is not a being, it is a title. So when I understand this, you asked, it would have to be outside. Of course it's outside. That is how you can judge. But why would you think it has to go so far outside? It has to leave the realm of human understanding or human relation. I was told he's a good father. He clarified this with the same thing that I would. A good thing is containing good qualities. Good qualities would be things that beneficial, that have worth. It is not a good father to allow a child to suffer. I would absolutely say my mother and father were not good parents. My mother has actually asked me forgiveness, and yet both were Christians. But the point is, how do I know is no different than anyone else in this room would know, and actually it's not even limited to humans. This is something even animals represent. The fact of how you can help the being to continue on, as he said, to continue on in the later thing. This is something that is not limited to us. I don't need to go to another planet. I don't need to go to some other unknown idea like a God to get it.
Thank you. Do we have a question for Pastor Pawlowski from the audience? Do we have another question to redirect to Mr. AtHope?
Yeah.
I had a question for Art. Just a quick question for Art. He gets my question, right?
You got your question.
My question has to
But
do
Art
with-
never got his question.
He should go.
Yeah, let me go.
Yeah, let him go.
My question has to do with morality. We see, I mean, you mentioned yourself that even animals have some semblance of, you know.
They have
maybe-
proto-morality.
Yeah, maybe some kind of version of a right and wrong, and you know, we sort of.
I don't know if it's right or wrong. That would be an understanding of the action itself.
Exactly. So there's consequences, and they somehow know that.
Yeah. They realize they can assess
Sure.
there's consequences.
So what we see with humans or with mankind, and we've seen this countless times, in especially in atheistic societies, particularly the Stalinists and the Maoists. You know, we've had
Well,
quite a few.
are you going to get to the question?
I'm getting to it.
Okay.
So we've had quite a few examples of what can happen when mankind, let's say, they're propagandized into a certain way of thinking. What happens when that becomes the majority and we don't have the Western world to fight against it, say in a World War II, to overcome that evil? What happens when that evil becomes the norm? The propaganda becomes so strong that everyone believes it, and suddenly we have the days of Noah once again, and evil is good and good is evil. So where's the right and where's the wrong in that case?
Thank you.
That was a lot of statements. Can you please clarify the question?
The question is, we've seen in the past that good has become evil and evil has become good. What happens when that happens again? Can it happen again? And if it does, what's the solution when all of mankind turns to what we now think is evil, but they think is good?
Thank you.
I'm assuming that you didn't only list atheistic when there's not one religion in the world, maybe Jainism, that has actually not done some form of violence. And in fact, it was not religion that gave us the secular society. It was the opposite of religion. And I, as an atheist, and even an anti-theist and an anti-religionist, would never violate someone's ownership of themselves and thus their mind and their beliefs. I would never remove someone's belief. And you asked, how can good become evil? Sir, it cannot. Good has qualities of good. Evil and good cannot be the same thing. All you're saying, I'm appearing to understand, is you're saying that they stopped being good and they started doing evil. Because I don't think you mean good can become evil, because I do not believe that.
I can interject on that. I'm going to use a reference here. In Nazi Germany, okay, the nation of Germany was propagandized to believe, and we also see this today, North Korea, where.
But you're helping him with the question,
yeah,
or
I'm clarifying for him. That a nation can be propagandized to believe that something evil is actually good. And that's to clarify.
Is that what you were saying?
That's what I'm saying, yeah.
Okay, because I was going to say, I completely reject good is good, evil is evil. They cannot be mixed. Anyways, so you stated what he was thinking. Could you please state this question? Because I guess
then we see what the Bible calls the conscience being seared, and so what is the answer to that when the whole world becomes like that? Let's say.
So what is the answer to that problem?
If the whole world were to become propagandized to that extent, what is the answer to it? How does it go back?
How do we stop propaganda?
Well, let's say everybody believes it. Everybody believes it wholeheartedly. How do we get back to the
I don't see how that's an atheistic or a theistic thing. I think atheists.
So my interjection on that, sorry, I understand what he's saying, so I'm going to interject. So what he is saying is that God, that the Bible gives us...
That's not a question.
But he gives us the moral handle on that situation. But an atheist, what is the atheist way of solving that issue? Does that make sense? You know, that
sort of not. Well, because I would reject the first premise that God is even known, that God has some quality.
Yes, but that's
so I'm saying. So, but you're saying, how can God do it and atheist not? There's a God can't do it. I'm done.
That's not it. You're not capturing it. The question is, how would an atheist see the solution to reverting a communal evil? Does that make sense?
Well, we already have the answer to how you solve this problem, and I don't think it is limited to an atheistic. It basically is a secular one. It is one that accepts ideas, and it accepts the value of all people in a given system. So what happens in propaganda, and you're saying, is we stop valuing the people, we remove the freedom. So the answer how you solve the removal of freedom, the removal of value, is you don't allow value to be removed. You don't allow freedom to be removed.
What if
it's secular.
What if freedom becomes evil?
That's another question.
No, I think it's part of it's just secondary to the question.
So you have a two-part question.
Well, no, I'm saying that freedom is good now, but what if it's evil then? You know, how do you get back to good?
That's kind of why the flood happened and why Jesus will come back.
Okay.
So going back to my reference, audience, get it under control. So going back to the reference I made of North Korea.
Well, so I really feel like I gave it a thing. This question seems to be somewhat convoluted at best, and if it takes you to restate it more than, I think we can move on to someone else. We have a limited time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. AtHope. So Jersey Flight, did you have a question for Pastor Pawlowski? Thank you.
Not him, he's on his side. I'm just joking. Love you.
First of all, I have no desire to be part of any of this propaganda whatsoever, not even slightly. The only reason I would even bring myself up here to address a person like yourself is because of Damien is my friend. That is why. I heard you mention dozens of questions, dozens and dozens of questions. But I have to seriously wonder how serious you are about probing the nature and answer of those questions. This is why. You mentioned that if meaning is chemical, and I think this is an accurate reduction of your position, that it is therefore meaningless. Now, I think to myself, so how is it that you would explain meaning if you examine reality and you find out that you are in fact made up of particles? That's what science tells us. You give an answer. You give the same answer that every religious person has given for the last 2,000 years. You open up ancient documents and you assert and rehash what the text already says. This makes me think that you are not serious about answering these questions. And the reason why is because how is it that that can qualify as an explanation, but when you actually probe into the nature of reality empirically and scientifically, that you then discard something like this? And I want to state again, I have no desire to be part of any of this.
So that was a great theological statement. Thank you.
So what was the question?
There was no question.
Do we have a question for Mr. AtHope?
Oh, these guys have been writing stuff down for a while.
Okay. Right from the left of the
We don't know them.
Hi. Thomas Nigel, university professor of New York, is a philosopher. He said, "It isn't just that," I'm quoting, "it isn't just that I don't believe in God and naturally hope that I'm right in my belief. It's that I hope there is no God. I don't want there to be a God." So, and when he wrote this book, and he stated this, for me it sounds like he doesn't want there to be a God. Is it that every atheist is like, doesn't want there to be a God? Because he's saying, I hope there is no God, and I don't want there to be a God. So are you guys just hoping there is no God, and just don't want there to be a God?
There is no one atheist that speaks for all atheists. I am an axiological atheist, and I clarify this succinctly. Thus, many, if not all atheists, might not even agree with me. This has no relevance to my position. The fact that someone stated that they are worried about a non-existent thing to me seems to be that they are the one that's not being honest with themselves.
He didn't answer my question. I did ask a question. Did you not understand it?
He did ask a question.
Yeah, I did ask a question. Do you know what my question was? My question was, how is it that you can say that that qualifies as an explanation when you reject an empirical evaluation of the universe and you say that doesn't qualify as an explanation precisely because you do not like the answer you find?
I don't think that's true. I believe that science works hand in hand with the truth that there is God. I just answered this young man over there about 2,500 years of science that was absolutely wrong.
Well,
and yet, you're accusing me of not looking at the facts. I think my whole beginning, the building up the foundation.
Is an assertion from the Bible a fact?
I believe it's a historical account, and I do believe it's a word of God given to us for a purpose. So I do take it as the truth. But I also presented you with facts that if there is creation, there also must be a creator.
But I specifically contextualized what I said. I said, you say that if meaning is chemical, then therefore there is no meaning. I believe that's an accurate...
Without God, yes.
Okay, so...
I do believe we have particles.
The answer then becomes...
molecules and cells.
How did you
and
explain meaning? You refer to the text. So I don't think you understood what I was actually asking you. You're not actually giving an explanation the same way that you're asking for an explanation. You're committing equivocation.
I did at the beginning. I think you were not listening. I said that every human being, including you, is born with a conscience.
You have been given
And you know that how?
conscience
You know that how?
by looking at myself. I was born not a believer. I was looking.
Then
at
how do
my
you
life.
deduce from yourself every human being? How is that possible?
Because I can look around and.
Have you examined?
Question answer, and
Ask
then we have to
Jersey,
switch.
please, that's
It's like
about
the-
6 questions.
So I do believe in science. I believe that the science is proving our statements. I think the science
Well, if I can
proves
throw
the
down.
whole Bible from the beginning to the end.
I'm actually really mean sometimes. Not
Thank
mean,
you,
but
Pastor.
tough.
This
I'm
is
just
a
trying to be lighthearted.
question, I believe, or you can, yeah, please, yeah, go for it, that's great. And after him, I believe you had one, no problem. And then after that, it's by grace of the, of these two, whether they're.
I'm willing to
questions.
answer all.
I gotta just thank you for both being here, really appreciate that, and thank you for coming all the way up. But Damien, really appreciate that as well. I think the question I want to have is this, I guess, in terms of context. Why ought we to look for answers and be reasonable in the first place? Why should we look for truth when nature relies on lies and being deceitful all the time to be able to have organisms like butterflies or fish deceitfully offer its tongue as food, for example, only to catch food? In other words, even in humanity, you believe religion is false, but provides some sort of survival benefit because it exists in every culture and society. So if something is false and doesn't require us to believe in truth, but still helps us survive, in the Darwinian model, we don't need to believe in truth in order to survive. So in your worldview, why should you correct religious people who believe in false things when our own DNA and our own beliefs allow us to survive, so there's no need to believe in truth?
Thank you.
That works for you to say that we don't need to believe in truth?
Doesn't matter if it works for me, I'm asking if
No.
it's for you.
I'm answering. That works for you. To me, when you say you don't need to believe in truth, that would be like saying I can drive my car and there's no to care about the fuel level. I can just drive it. The facts and truth about the world are not important. That is ludicrous. It absolutely follows that reason is not a thing, it's not a behavior, it's an awareness where it should be of the properties of the world and how to navigate it properly. I do not state that there is a thing that we do when we reason. We basically are assessing the world and navigate it, and you know what? Sometimes we have to reassess. We're driving our car, we always realize that we have to pay attention to the lights, to the other cars. This is reason in evidence. We're doing it all the time. You choose to sit down, when like I need to sit down because of my foot, it's reasonable to do that because to stand would have a consequence direct in the world, does not need some superficial addition.
Reason allows us to survive.
Thank you for your answer. Do we have another question? Yes, sir. Sorry, you in the back. And your question is for
And then the lady, she's been going for a
Mr.
while.
Apple. Okay, thank you.
Okay. I wrote it down because it's about morality and you made an interesting statement about it's a sin to condemn a person.
Sir,
the apple.
I never said, I thought you were saying I said it's a sin.
Yeah, you said, those are the words you stated. It's a
in what context?
And I'm not, I'm just trying to understand what you meant by that, because those are the words you used. It's a sin to condemn a person who didn't know or had no knowledge. And you're referring to...
I would not have used the word sin.
That's what I have.
It is morally repugnant to claim that a non-moral being has to follow some moral rules that it doesn't know.
And I agree with you. I'm not here to actually counter your argument there.
So
that's exactly. I just want some.
extremely sure that I did not use the word sin. And if I did, believe me, it was an error.
But they knew the consequences.
Okay,
They knew.
And that's what
But
I'm trying to
also
open
all they do
up.
is
That's
good.
the issue I'm trying to open up. Is I wrote that down, that you used the word sin. And I'm not criticizing you. I'm just saying, you use the word sin, meaning that it's a bad thing, right? It's something that God judged. He's a judge, he's the jury, and he's a prosecutor of his own creation.
Well, I did not use any of those words either.
That's my question.
Okay.
Okay, to me, it appears that God judged his own creation, prosecuted his own creation, and he sat as the jury, and he condemned them. And you said that he condemned someone that had no knowledge of what we were referring to, knowledge about that the apple was tainted, or was
No,
it?
I said that he did not understand the knowledge of good and evil. I really do not like when people just limit to knowledge. It was the knowledge of good and evil, which is a moral property. Good differentiating from evil. So if you cannot differentiate good from evil, you are not able to make a moral conclusion. You're not able to navigate morality in any way.
Okay, so
the question?
Adam and Eve had no concept of what was good or evil prior to being condemned. Is that the question? That's my question.
I'm saying and I did say Genesis, in the book of Genesis, the Bible states that Adam and Eve did not have any knowledge of good and evil. I didn't say this until they ate of the tree of knowledge and good and evil. And I said that then they were condemned as a sin. I didn't use the word sin. That they are being condemned as they sinned, doing the act of understanding morality they would need to understand they were not doing morality correctly to the God's opinion.
So basically, God concealed what was good and evil, and He only determined that after they it's almost like ignorance of the law is no excuse. Like they didn't know what was good and evil prior to eating the apple. And they only understood that after eating the apple.
I will not.
I'm just asking for clarification. It's not a criticism.
No, but I was saying I would not try to understand what the Bible was trying to mean. The Bible says they did not know the knowledge of good and evil until they ate the knowledge of good and evil. If you heard the word sin, I said they were then condemned as that was a sin to learn the knowledge of good and evil, which they would need to actually understand they had violated something, eating of a tree of knowledge and good and evil. It's a contradiction.
Exactly. I agree. So God hid that
So what is your
from his own
question
creation.
exactly? It sounds like you're asking for
So
clarity.
you're saying
and now you're
hidden is
confirming
an
his
action.
response.
So they weren't aware of it prior to that.
First off, you're talking as God as it's a person. I don't know that. All I'm saying is what is written in the book.
Yeah.
What is written in the book is what I was stating. What I was written in the book is saying that the claim of sin was done because of this thing.
So what's your model of how to determine what's
That's
right?
more than one question.
Okay.
Thank you.
Just I just want to clarify. I just want to clarify to this. Listen, when you read the scripture,
If you have a question, no.
I just want to clarify to what he said, so that
Sir,
people
if
can
you have,
understand.
please come and stand up here if you want to give a question.
I have a
Willing to accept the
different question.
Can
So I don't want to waste it
Thank
on
you.
this question.
Madam,
Foolishness.
okay, Pastor Pawlowski has some insight too, because your question was rather general.
I think you're missing the point, and you're missing the point here. I believe that Adam and Eve had moral standards. I believe that they knew what's right and wrong. That's the difference. God created this to give us a choice. You're just completely missing.
Okay.
Let me finish. You're completely missing the point. Adam and Eve, they knew exactly what was going on. They knew that they are not allowed to take it. They willfully broke God's law, and for that there were consequences. So to assert that they didn't know what was going on, and therefore this bad father is going to judge them for something that they had no knowledge, or they couldn't choose any different way, that I would agree with you, was cruel and evil. But because they knew exactly what they were allowed to do and were not allowed to do,
they willfully, like many of us living on this planet right now, are choosing, and they were choosing at that time, to openly rebel against the authority of God and His kingship, and also as a father. And this happens to in my house all the time, that I have to bring the correction into my house. So I think that's where the misunderstanding is. They perfectly were aware of what they were doing.
Thank you, Pastor.
Hold on. I want to rebuttal to this.
Yes, Lord.
Sir, you are a father, correct? You have more than one child, is that correct?
Yes.
Wonderful. Now, if one child does something, even if they were deserving of some sort of punishment, would you then give punishment to all the children because of the one child? Is that a moral thing to do? Is that a just thing to do?
Can I come?
This is good.
Well, again, I think you're missing the point. Both of them sinned. Both of them broke the law, and both of them paid the consequences of their actions. And because of the consequences of the actions of their fathers, of father and mother, the children were paying the consequences. So it's like me growing up under communist dictatorship. Because of the sin, in quote, of my fathers allowing communism to come to my country, I paid the consequences of what happened 50, 100 years before that. So there are consequences for our actions. If I go around and start murdering people, raping them, and I'm caught by the police, my actions will have effect on my family. Wouldn't you agree? My children, all of my children, will pay the consequences of my actions. I will actually hurt not one of my child, but all of them, including my wife and all the loved ones. You see, we have to understand that our actions have consequences. And I started with that atheists, they like to believe that everything goes and there are no consequences. But the Bible clearly teaches us, and life around us, and we were talking about facts. Everywhere we look, we see consequences, even if we choose to deny them. There are laws that we have to follow, either if we believe in them or we don't believe in them. Like I was mentioning the gravity. The same way at the very beginning, God clearly stated the laws and the boundaries, and those people chose to break them. The consequences of their actions we pay to this day. But the beauty about God is that it didn't just leave us dry. He actually brought back, they called second Adam, a person that died in your place and my place, to bring back the order, to bring back the relationship that was broken. You see, God is not this cruel tyrant that just abandoned us, like you like to portray Him. My God is a God that brought a solution to our problems. Even though we sinned, we rebelled against Him, and we, like yourself, we may say He is not there, it's just random chance, just molecules and brain, and that's it, the cell. He still gives you a chance, like He gives me a chance, to receive His redemption. That's the beauty about my Father. Amen. My Father didn't just leave me dry,
okay, so you gave, I want to rebuttal this.
Thank you.
This idea is an offensive one to me, that all should suffer as you stated. The God as it's presented to me, I find morally repugnant. It is like that Hitler did the act to the Jews, and then the Jews also are held accountable for what Hitler did to the Jews. Thank you. I think I'm done.
Okay. Yeah, that's enough of that.
Sorry, question to follow up on what you guys are saying. Is like, who is the injured party? Like, who is the person that got offended by the eating of the act?
I think that we've addressed stuff. I think that
isn't the justice system supposed, like, if God's trying to create morality?
Thank you, sir. I'm sorry, but we have many people waiting in line, and you had your
It's part of
opportunity.
this.
You thought it sounded pretty good.
Yeah, and it opened up to a whole debate, and that was awesome. But this lady has been very patiently waiting since the beginning. And there's a few behind her.
Forever.
Thank you. With a question.
The thing that I have not heard answered is who decides what's good and evil? We have somebody in Canada, I don't know if you read about it, Damien, this person in British Columbia that took it upon himself, he had a quota, he was going to kill 50 prostitutes and feed them to his pigs and all this stuff, right? Now, in his opinion, like he thought, bitches and hoes, I'm going to get rid of them. You know, and like that was his morality, okay? So who decides? Everybody's got a different, when I was a teenager, I had this morality that led me down this road to craziness, you know? And where does the morality come from? It's not like, I don't understand where spiritual things come through. You can't see depression, you can see the effects of depression. You can't see love, you can see the effects of love.
Well, so
I believe you can't see God, but you see the effect. You know, like, these are things you can't see.
So let me address your question.
Yeah.
How are we able to decide that there was rules that we would follow in this room? The idea that morality needs some sort of magical answer is that it'd be just as ludicrous as thinking we can't come in here and have a peaceable debate. It is the same exact thing. It is a social construct in a social dynamic limited to social sphere.
Thank you. Of note, pastor's wife, Marcia.
She's biased. Biased.
I think after giving you a no, but listen, after her, I think I'm ready to go because I'm getting hungry. No, you already got a chance. I asked you.
We have
You
5
just
minutes to wrap it up. I
Okay.
kept it so that I can ask.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, I have just one question, and I'm not going to give all my thoughts about it, but I have just one question to you and all the audience. How the world would look like without 10 commandments?
How would the world look like? I know what the world looks like. It looks like the Dark Ages. Nowhere in the 10 Commandments, first off, half of them are not even anything that would be relative to a just society. It simply has claims. Do this to God, don't do this. So, and then it's funny, the 10 Commandments put obey your mother and father above murder. What standard is this? I say that we need to reject completely something so obviously in error of how you level moral actions.
But that's just according to godly parents. I honor my father and mother.
It's a very interesting question. I did not know that my wife is going to ask this question, but I have something interesting for you. Actual quotes from a gentleman. I'm not going to say.
Who asked the question? Oh, you're giving the 5 minute rebuttal.
Okay.
All right.
I thought you were going to jump me or something.
Because I thought, no. All I was saying is I wanted to actually let the people in the audience have a chance.
I know.
So we already got
more
taught.
question.
Okay.
The quote's from a very interesting person. It's I'm sure you're familiar with Adolf Hitler, and this is what he says: "The day will come when I shall hold up against these 10 commandments the tables of the new law, and history will recognize our movement as the great battle for humanity's liberation from the curse of Mount Sinai." This is what we are fighting against: the masochistic spirit of self-torment, the curse of so-called morals, idolized to protect the weak from the strong, against the so-called 10 Commandments. Against them, we are fighting. And
no sermons.
No sermons.
You already.
No sermons.
You already.
I'll just read the 10 Commandments so the people at least watch.
Maybe not everybody
It's
knows.
fine. That's fine.
You know, we'll know what we're talking about because you made a statement that that the 10 Commandments are horrible. I am the Lord your God who brought you out of Egypt. I'm reading from the Exodus.
Can I just, as you read them, can I say what's not an actual moral thing? that has
It
to
would be
relate to
better if you had a
humanity.
rebuttal afterwards. We're trying not to
Can you
interrupt the speakers.
simplify, like, do not kill, do not
So I am the Lord your God who brought you out of Egypt. You
That's
shall
not
have
a fact.
no other gods before me.
That's
you shall
not
not
morality.
make for yourself an idol in the form
That's
of
not
anything
morality.
in heaven, above, or on the earth beneath. You shall not misuse the name of the Lord your God.
Not morality.
For the Lord will not hold anyone guiltless who misuses his name. Remember the Sabbath day by keeping it holy.
Not morality.
6 days you shall labor and do all your work, but the seventh day is the Shabbat. I'm simplifying. Honor your father and your mother, so that you may live long in the land that the Lord your God
That
is
is
giving you.
a way that a child
You shall not murder. You shall not commit adultery. You shall not steal. You shall not give false testimony against your neighbor. You shall not covet your neighbor's house. You shall not covet your neighbor's wife, or his man servant or maidservant, his ox or donkey, or anything that belongs to your neighbor. Let me just humbly submit that this law that is around us, everywhere in the world, as long as it's not a dictatorship, is based on the Ten Commandments. Every
we are
law
so
around the
proudly
world.
take away one by one.
Mr.
All right,
Edward, do you want to rebuttal that?
I already addressed it.
If it's okay with the two, there is one last question who's been standing and waiting for a long time. So please, yes, ask your question. And that'll close the question and answer. There may be a closeout.
2 minutes. I'll try to be as quick as possible. And to
Be
be
very
honest
quick.
with you, it's not really a question per se, because for most of my life I've been where you are, so I know the answers to these questions. And the master that I served on that side was not a good master. It ended up that I was smoking.
Could you go ahead?
Please,
Oh, the
it's
thing,
a message.
clarify, okay.
It's a message to you specifically. I ended up with crack cocaine, shooting needles in my arm, sleeping with every prostitute in this city, pimping. By the way, I'm a murderer. He can testify, he's my brother. A thief, etc., etc., everything that comes with it. Suicidal, tried suicide twice. Didn't believe. And then when I didn't believe, I hated God. When I didn't hate God, I didn't believe in God. I was an atheist and jumping here and there just whenever I chose. And one day, this one day, I had a visitation that was 10 years ago. And I want to tell you something, man. Whatever you're going through, whatever you're going to go and do in your future, I just want to tell you, I had a visitation, I saw Jesus. I hated him, I didn't believe in him, I despised him. He showed up, and in an instant he delivered me. And the interesting thing is, when I saw his wounds, and when he touched me, it didn't take months, it didn't take minutes, instantaneously I was delivered from cocaine, alcoholism, you name it. I was a free man. But you know what struck me? It's what he said. He didn't come to me with his ideological wisdom and he didn't open a book of wisdom and say, look, I am so wise. You know what he said to me? Listen. And his voice was like war or like rushing water. You ever stood by Niagara? I can't explain it. It was so powerful, so amazing, so majestic. And this is what he said. Listen. If you do not become as a little child, by no means you will ever enter the kingdom of God. It broke everything about me. It went against my reasoning, my intellect. It went against everything I stood for. I was a Roman soldier. I was a Roman citizen. You understand me? And it went against everything. I hit you with this.
Yeah, you're done. So I'll address this. I happen to be a crack addict in the past. I happen to do all kinds of drugs. I've actually been sober for 27 years.
missed the point. of
No,
my
you
message.
missed the point. You said that I did it without it, so I guess that I don't need a God that's not real. You
No.
need that. Some people,
You missed the message.
sir, some people need books to teach them.
No.
Some people could look at the world. I have the same experience as you, and yet I did not have to have that. I was
You missed my
realized.
point. You missed my point. I said
I'm done, thank
what
you.
he said. If you do not become as a little child
done.
in faith,
You're done.
you will never enter.
Turn it off.
Go do your closeout so
Okay,
that.
so closing arguments.
No, I'm done.